Good evening. Tonight on True Stories, Anne Devison presents an insight into the private world of schizophrenia in Spinning Out.
I might be the wrong man for the movie if I'm not a schizophrenic. If you don't know what that one is, and I can't tell you what a schizophrenic is because you don't know. You understand?
Yeah, you don't have to...
But you can take me as a subject, as a loyal subject.
That's what we want to do, just talk to you as
a loyal subject.
As a patient in this clinic. Right?
Right.
That's all. But it means you have to put your name...
But if I'm not patient in this clinic, can I walk out that door?
Yeah, you can walk out that door.
Thank you.
Any time. But don't you want to stay and talk to us here?
Not for a moment, I've got to get me like that. Just turn my sis. Thanks.
Well, just hang on for a sec, could you, so I can talk to you?
Yeah, but I don't stuff with schizophrenia, see?
Oh,
Yous all do.
Did I tell you about that time how I went to the zoo and I heard you on the radio a couple of weeks before? And I was just hoping that I'd meet you sitting there drawing the monkeys. And I was going to kind of come up to you and go, "Hi Simon, I'm Sue and I'm schizophrenic." That would have been funny.
Would have been great.
Yeah, you would have spun out though, wouldn't you?
No,
You wouldn't have?
It would have been great.
I'm actually a person who has suffered from schizophrenia. And I'll be working with you today to explain a little bit more and elaborate about the experience of schizophrenia that I've had and what kind of things help people. I guess all of you look a little bit like this morning, and certainly under the lights and the cameras I feel much the same, you know. And for a person with schizophrenia, one of the delusions you can often have is that people are bugging you. You know, that you've got a wire on you listening to everything you say, or that people are making movies about you, those kind of crazy thoughts. And all of a sudden it's like, woo, they're here, you know?
I first met Simon when my son Jonathan was alive. Like Simon, Jonathan had schizophrenia. He was 17 and I was floundering. There was so much ignorance about the illness. And for families who are trying to cope, there still is.
He was imagining he was a sumo warrior and he was 7 foot tall and he said, "Look at me, Mum, I'm 7 foot tall." And I sort of said, "Oh, yeah, William." And then he started going, "Yeah," you know what I mean? And then one day I was making a roast dinner and I had a spoon in my hand. You know, he thought it was a knife and he came at me. And I knew then that I had to do something about it.
I've often felt that I've been blamed. You know, that they sort of, come on, I'm the one that's got the problems. I've caused Andrew's schizophrenia, the refrigerator mother. You know, I believe that I'm a good mother, that I've done everything I can, and I will continue to do everything that I believe is right for my son.
Despair was the thing that Nancy and I have felt right through, the absence of help. And I think a society approaching the 21st century, if it allows this illness to go along with so little attention from governmental and research and community-minded people, I think Australia's got no soul.
I'm going home next week.
Yeah, what, Lismore?
If anyone's deaf, I need to hit a smack.
But the management here, I understand, have been a bit cross with you for your behaviour.
In the last reason.
Yeah, but you're going to
Where's the reason?
No, hang on, you're going to get tossed out.
That's all right.
Yeah, but where are you going to stay then?
Maybe in a barn with my head under my wing.
Yeah? How much Largactil? Will you take some Modicate injection from us?
Not Modicate, plenty of Largactil.
Largactil. Yeah.
Blood and guts all over the world, so.
Probably not enough. Can we give you 200 Largactil, I think? Huh? Because you're going to get yourself into strife here and you're a bit lively at the moment, aren't you?
Yeah, that's all right. I've got a home. But you don't want to learn, do you?
I'm quite happy to listen to that.
Why don't you save the world, man?
Save the world?
Yeah. Why don't you? With your ink and your biro.
Well, it's probably not
There's
enough.
probably colours everywhere. Oh. Even a rainbow. Look at that.
You can stay here, but you've got to behave yourself properly.
No,
right?
Okay.
I think slowly we'll find out the cause of schizophrenia. I can't say that we know what it is yet, but in my view it's a medical illness. It's an illness of the brain. It's unrelated to bad behaviour. It's unrelated to the person knowing that he's behaving badly. It's unrelated to the way the parents bring up the child. It's probably some chemical or abnormality in the brain, or some small multiple centres in the brain that are impaired. We know there's a genetic loading for schizophrenia, so that if one parent has the illness, perhaps something like 15% of their offspring would have the illness, whereas in the general population, only about 1% get the illness.
If I hadn't been born a schizophrenic, I would have probably been a landscape artist or drawn animals. I really love drawing animals, and but now I'm mainly involved in this sort of education. If you're always told that you're never going to achieve anything, how are you going to believe that you can? And people with schizophrenia get that all the time, every day of their lives. To the point where you hear things like the only good schizo is a dead schizo, which really hurts. That kind of stuff is really heavy, especially if you've lost mates because, they couldn't take it anymore. So I'd started to think that people with schizophrenia were special. I have a highly biased view, obviously. Hell, I'm not whitewashing the issue here. I don't whitewash people with schizophrenia. We can be hard to live with sometimes when we're sick and ill. So basically what it's come to mean for me, if you look at the letters, special, creatively heightened individual, zanily, overly perceptive, humorous, really emotional, needing insight and care.
So what we're going to do, Simon, you're going to hear some tones through these headphones. Hear two types of tones. I'm going to ask you to press your button as quickly as possible, only when you hear the high-pitched tone. You feel comfortable about that?
Yep.
Everything nice and comfortable and relaxed?
Ready to go.
Okey-doke, let's go.
Schizophrenia is a name given to a group of disorders. It isn't a split personality like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Instead, it's a disorder in the brain which distorts the way a person thinks and experiences the world. This creates a loss of distinction between the self and the outer world.
Relax your muscles.
Some of these brain variations can now be measured.
What we see here is that in Simon's brainwave form, there is only one peak and one trough in a time frame where we might expect to see two peaks and two troughs. This indicates that Simon's brain is being flooded with stimuli, and it's making it very difficult for Simon to discriminate what's important and what's not important.
The first time I started to understand what these measurements were actually showing about the way that my brain perceived and responded to stimuli, there was a sense of relief. It was quite a moving experience because for years, even when I'm in remission, there's this constant sort of, you're lazy or you can't do things or whatever. And I realised that even over the simplest response to stimuli, my brain's really having to actually reprogram itself almost all the time, and that there's this constant effort to focus and overcome. And that was the disability then, the psychosis, and that the medications fix up. But this daily sort of battle to overcome this processing. And I realised that, things like my memory problems and that they're not just to do with the medication, that they're actually, it's like my filing system, the neuronal filing system is wrong, and it's constantly having to be updated every second to try and make sense of the world.
Jay Cook was a young man when he had his first attack of schizophrenia, but he's continued to work as a mathematical physicist. Jay's father, a general practitioner, had schizophrenia. So has his sister, and so have 2 of his 4 children. 25% of people with schizophrenia have a single attack and then recover completely. Others, like Jay and his children, have many attacks. But for each person, the course of the illness is different. The bizarre symptoms of schizophrenia, like delusions, hallucinations, and thought disorders, usually occur in the active stage of the illness. The mind's inner chaos produces a world that is frightening and strange.
First symptoms, racing thoughts. I know I'm going into a psychosis when the thoughts are tumultuous and they're all over the place. Then afterwards, there's anxiety and paranoia. I start to get thought disorders, paranoid delusions.
And what sort of things?
Well, I think the house is bugged and I'm being spied on and that there are bugs in the television and bugs in the radio and, oh.
How do you cope with that?
I find the paranoia quite difficult, but I feel that when they're suffering from paranoia, you really can't reason with it. You just sort of go along quietly with it, which it doesn't come naturally to me.
When I watch television, for example, I get two meanings from what's happening on television. I get the literal meaning, a bit, then I get the paranoid meaning, which is that the person on the television is talking directly to me or about me. And it's very hard to shake off that feeling. It's overwhelming, isn't it?
That's what they call ideas of reference, where you think that there's a special message in what people say or you see for you. You think they're sending something out to you.
But now, are these attempts to find some sort of explanation for what's going on inside your head? I mean, the paranoia and the feeling that somebody's saying something special. I think it's definitely the paranoia.
Because, you think that those people are actually talking about you, even though it's got nothing to do with what's happening to you at that present time. But you believe it does. And you believe that they are saying it about you.
Yes, or even people addressing you directly. You'll get a double meaning when someone says something to you. You'll get a meaning that says, well, he's saying, am I going for a walk? But he's also saying, why are you going for a walk? Are you going to do this and are you going to do that?
So how do you deal with that when it happens? Because it must be pretty scary.
Well, I reality test.
So do I.
What's that mean?
That means you say to yourself, did he really say that? Is that really what he meant? And you check up on your own ideas about what's happening.
Do you have visual hallucinations?
The first hallucination I had was a visual one, with me looking in the mirror, and then my face melted and turned into a sort of a demon-like character. Then for 2 years I had nothing, and then in my third year at uni I started to hear auditory hallucinations in my ears and around me, it's if somebody was talking to me, or I could hear their thoughts, and things like that. Often they said, we want your heart was a common one. Stupid was another one, and a few insulting words. And I had a really bad time a couple of months ago. I was in my room and I heard a baby screaming, so that's why I started sleeping out here again. And I went over to the door there to shut the window, and then I heard this massive scream, and I just went, oh no. And I thought, I can't get away from it. I just can't get away from it. So I went down and stayed up all night wondering about it.
And psychosis is so terrifying. I wouldn't recommend it for anybody.
How is it terrifying?
You have a feeling that the whole world is hemming into your head. You have no privacy. You have no feeling that you could ever be alone. And it's an awful feeling.
Mental illness is often sensationalized. And because we don't understand it, I think it frightens us and we want to distance ourselves from it. When Jonathan became ill, I found some people who thought he was bad, not mad, or that he was malingering, or that his illness was due to his upbringing. So we not only had to deal with the schizophrenia, but also with the stigma. Before the advent of medication, people were often confined in asylums for most of their lives. Treatment was harsh and degrading, and there was little hope. Today, people are treated within the community wherever possible, but for a few, hospital remains their only home.
Well, a Japanese boy walked into my home with a pair of needles, long ones, cane ones, and I was doing my homework, Latin homework at the time, and he stuck these in my brain and through the side of my head into my brain. And I was out to it on the floor, but I was fortunate in that Dr. Robert Middleton, who lives over the road, walked in to see what the Jap was up to and caught him, and then he rang up the army.
Tell me about being in hospital together, because you were there for a long time, weren't you?
Yes.
Oh, we got used to each other because we know each other.
I like Paul, you know, a friend of my school I went to, it's a dash good school, but probably the best Jesuit school in New South Wales, the headmaster of the Rhodes Scholar.
What sort of treatment did you get in hospital?
There was a lot of shock treatment and a lot of insulin and intravenous's and all that sort of thing.
Did you have those?
14 shock treatments in insulin camp or insulin camp.
And I had 17 shocks.
Were straitjackets used?
Oh, they were, but not on me particularly.
No, they weren't, nothing like that on me.
And you missed that.
I won the tennis competition one year. Some people here used to call me Napoleon Bonaparte the Fourth.
Napoleon Bonaparte the Fourth.
Napoleon Bonaparte the Fourth.
And
Well, I'd always sing the Marseillaise.
Can you sing the Marseillaise?
Allons enfants de la patrie, le jour de gloire est arrivé, compte tenu de la tyrannie, l'étendard sanglant élevé, l'étendard sanglant élevé. Entendez-vous dans ces campagnes, mesures, ces héros soldats, ils viennent jusque dans nos bras, égorgent nos filles.
People with a great sense of threat are put inside a place which is seen as threatening.
Well, it wasn't originally. It was asylum. There was farms here.
You had all the outside, but then you got the walls.
It was only in the 40s and that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it was, it was a beautiful place. This is our only locked ward. This is the only closed area in the whole hospital now.
Simon has had the experience of locked wards. Andy, a community psychiatrist, takes him there to visit patients.
Doing sort of peaceful things right now. Yeah, well, we're trying. It's not for us to be peaceful here, but still.
These architectures immediately, for me, became part of my delusions. And the reality of that was that I thought I was in a concentration camp. And I was under that delusion for some time. You look at, you'd pace. It doesn't take that long to pace in a place like this.
If you're coming in trying to give people hope, what would you be saying?
What I say to people when I visit them here, behave yourself. Don't play up and you'll be out of here quicker, It's like, which isn't exactly medical. You know what I mean? You should be saying, well, this will be a period you'll go through, and when you wake, when you start to relax and work out what's happening to you, you'll go to a better ward. But it shouldn't be a graded scale. It's crazy, really, that aspect of it, a graded scale thing.
Well, we don't want to put walls around everyone. It's a very selective process now.
That's true, but why should a wall around you be you're getting into behaviour modification then, and it's like, if you don't respond to our care, then you're going to go into a more oppressive situation.
Just gently. Get the feeling of getting back in control again. Well done.
Thanks.
Yeah. Did that scare you, or was it good?
No, it scared me a little bit, but it wasn't too bad.
No. And I guess that's one of the things about anger, being frightened of, what it does to you.
Yeah.
And as I was saying before, if you can sort of talk about the things that bug you rather than just hitting out, That gives you a feeling of being in control.
After filming, I'll introduce you to some of them. You can feel that. You're projecting a bit.
Oh, yeah, I know. I know. I mean, look, I'm just being cynical too, you know. That's how I am. I think, you know, for me, you know, asylum is still one of the most beautiful words in the English language. And I mean, like in this state alone, you've got 9 major psychiatric institutions that have some of the most beautiful lands that would be perfect asylums if only people thought sensitively about how to use that space. And that's the irony, I guess, of a place like this, Treetops, where, you know, people do relax. They do relaxation, they do meditation, they do poetry, they do art, they do, they make a really good meal. It's the best restaurant in town, I reckon, you know, and good company. But I mean, like, the spirit in which it's done too, there's a lot of love involved in this.
And yet, Treetops is a part of this hospital, isn't it? And it's a place that in the past you've always come to, and you still come to, like now, today, to find peace.
Yeah. Well, it also connects me with people with schizophrenia, you know, and I enjoy that because, well, I don't enjoy seeing them suffer in their really extreme states, but it gives me hope, in a way, to see that the way they're treated is better. I mean, like, I think there are ways of locking people up, if you like, with feeling. That, you know, you can, I think, you know, there's sometimes when people are in a really crazy state and you can talk to them and you just exacerbate that process, and obviously you're not going to connect with everybody, and patients should have the right to say, I don't connect with this therapist or this patient, with this psychiatrist, whatever. And equally, a psychiatrist should say, this person really pisses me off, I can't work with them, you know? Because there's going to be all sorts of factors there. But that you can sometimes, you know, you can talk to somebody and it's just going nowhere, but you just have to touch them sometimes, and out will come tears. And they're grounded again. And a lot of those states that people with so-called schizophrenia get into just take all the energy up to the head. It's that simple. And like, we talk about biochemical imbalance and dopamine and, you know, call it whatever brainwaves you want. But we often forget that the things that work for most people will work for people with schizophrenia.
Just ahead. Just take a seat there, please.
Aria, where's he going?
What's the house, pretty good?
Bullshit, I'm not going there.
Well, it's the only place left.
It's either there or police cells, there are no other beds.
Medication means that people can now live in the community, but there aren't enough services. Accommodation is inadequate, and many people end up on the streets where they're vulnerable and easily exploited. In most major Western cities, between 30 and 50% of homeless people are mentally ill. Some abuse alcohol and drugs as a means of coping with their problems.
But it means there are no beds, so it means, okay, we're going to have to get him a bed in the police cells. So that's where he's going to have to go for tonight. We'll rather have than have him on the streets. Yeah, hi, it's Denise here from Mission Beat. We've got one male intox that's barred from everywhere, Stephen, and all proclaimed places are full. Can we bring him over to you, please?
Hold on, what's...
Okay, thanks a lot. Okay, bye. Yes, David, it is, please. Tell Elsie Brian, when you pick Stephen up, he's got a bed in the police cells.
Whenever Jonathan had a crisis, it was almost impossible to get anyone to come to our home. The importance of community care is now recognised, but services are still patchy. And this is bad, because without help, people often get worse. With help, the outlook is so much better than we previously thought. This community care team in the heart of Sydney reaches out to people wherever they are.
We had a report about this guy Ace, from PJs. Apparently he's been there, he's been quite disruptive, and they would like us to go and assess him. I believe that you've been following that up.
Yeah, I got a phone call today from the nurse at Matthew Talbot saying he's living in squats in Palmer Street. So maybe we should go down there.
No, I'll follow that up.
All right, folks, that's it. Let's go.
We're down here to look for Ace. I think it's a bit early for him yet. It's like 8:45.
Do people often turn up late then?
Normally, yeah. And it appears that he's not here, so we're far too early for him.
One of the things that interests me is every time I come around this area while we've been working on the film, it reminds me of looking for Jonathan, because this used to be his haunt. And it was amazing how often there was a whole network of people who would know where I could look for him. But there was nothing like you people. There were no crisis teams, no people working in the area. Because you must see people in the past used to slip through the net.
Well, I found I've gotten to know odd shopkeepers who happen to know where people work. People you wouldn't suspect would be valuable in finding people you're looking for. Often know where they are, when they've been in, how much money they've got, where they've gone for the day.
Hey, Ace. How are you? Good. Steve from the Talbot told me you were around here. You haven't had your medication for a while?
I'll go anywhere I like in Sydney. I've got about 8 squats to go to full of people. The only problems are they've closed the squats down. There's this idiot on
So where are you going to stay tonight?
I'll find another squat like I used to do. I've been squatting out, you know that. I've been squatting out for about 6 years.
Why don't you come to the Talbot with me?
No, I don't want to. No way.
See the doctor and that?
Look,
and,
street
and if
kids.
you do that for me...
Well, I'll talk to the doctor and see what he says to me, because I need medication sometimes because of my schizophrenia, you know.
Well, you need sickness benefits too.
Yeah, I need sickness benefits or something.
We all need some money to live with, and
well, look, I come on one
endeavour.
condition, right? That you can supply me and my mates. There's about 40 of us that used to live here. They've all gone to Melbourne or Queensland or Perth. We've all split up. We used to be a union around here, a squatters' right union. And they've closed down about 30 squats in Glebe. They've closed down about 18 squats all around the city. And all these kids are usually waiting to go somewhere or to live somewhere, and it's for someone to pull them out of it, out of the slum, and put them on like a benefit or something, because most of them haven't got ID. They don't even own ID. So how would I get on anywhere if I didn't have money? And
Well,
you'd have
if
to
you
live in a
like to
squat.
come with me now, Ace, we can go and see a doctor, and I can endeavour to help your cause first. That's all what I can say at this moment. So, would you
I
come
trust
to
you.
the...
There's not many people I trust, but I trust you, you know.
Okay, well, let's go and have a talk
it's
to the
hard- it's
doctor
hard
then,
to
okay?
It's hard to understand.
And we'll see what we can do for you.
And if you find someone's either being friendly towards me, to use me on a scheme, a drug scheme, like first.
He actually complained of the voices on Monday. So
I think we should probably stop the fluphenazine before we pull down the motorcade. Anyway, I'll have a talk to see what he's like, especially if you had the voices a couple of days ago. Well, what about the medications then? At the moment, you've got a Modicate injection once a week.
They're changing that to twice.
Well, we're thinking of changing that to a dose every 2 weeks. In other words, doubling the dose, but giving it to you every 2 weeks instead of 1 week. Does that suit you?
Well, they got me on Cogent and Mellaril right now.
Yes.
They're skipping out on the Artane. They've changed from Artane to Cogentin, which is a milder pill.
Yeah, that's right. But just sticking with the Modicate for the minute, you're happy to continue that every couple of weeks?
Yes, I am.
Right. And the Mellaril, you've got 2 of those tablets, I think, at night.
2 at night, 1 in the morning.
3 a day?
Mellaril, yeah.
Okay. And 1 Cogentin a day?
Yeah.
And that suits you?
Sort of.
You haven't... I think Brian was saying you'd had a couple of voices over the last few days.
Well, I couldn't get to sleep at night because I've had nightmares and stuff about things that have happened to me in the past, like haunts. Apparitions come around me and it's haunting me.
How long's that been happening to you?
It only happens every now and then.
I mean, it doesn't sound like it's too disturbing, or it doesn't happen all
not. It's not. It doesn't have any pain about it.
Okay.
I've been on a pension now for 4 years. The money doesn't really interest me.
Well, that's a bit lucky if you're on a pension, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
He jumped.
How are things, Mark? Where's Dr. Gray gone?
Right, Simon. I didn't know it either. It's all right. Just get it down.
There's more mentally ill homeless over the last decade than there was prior to that, and that's happened in all the Western countries.
Where you have people who are homeless and who are mentally ill, would they not be better in hospital?
Well, again, some might be, and a lot of people in the community might think they might be, because out of sight, out of mind. Most of the patients themselves actually prefer to live in the community, even though, to us, they live under more deprived circumstances. They're more often out of money, occasionally they get bashed, they're more easily led astray, but they have their own freedom, and most of them would indicate that that's what they would prefer. And that's why one reason I think that it's probably it's quite a nice idea that most of these people are outside of hospital.
For me, one of the most optimistic developments is the growth of self-help groups, where people draw upon their strengths and learn how to manage their illness. I've seen some major changes in this Sydney group.
There was one stage where I went away on a camp and I got my pills. And it was like, when I took them, suddenly I was different from everybody else. And it didn't matter whether people said, oh, there's probably a person with diabetic. At that point, I went away and I was really depressed. I didn't feel like anybody else anymore, you know? And it was sort of just so disappointing and something. And they always rattle, you know, and, you know, and they're green, you know, and it's like Soylent Green, you know, it's like hell. You know, I mean, like, it's sort of like, yeah, they really set you apart. And this thing about the old line about if you were a diabetic, you'd take your insulin, you know?
Well,
it's not,
true,
but it's not the same.
It is the same.
Bullshit. It's not the same. It's because on one level it is. If society recognised it as a physical illness like diabetes, then no problem. You'd just be balancing out your biochemistry. But because you're a schizophrenic, you're possessed or you're whatever. So every time you take those pills, you swallow the label with it.
No, I don't agree.
No, that's because we've done therapy, but I mean, like, that's what it used to feel like to me, you know?
If the drugs were better, I think more people would take them willingly. And I think that there's got to be a lot more done to make the drugs more sophisticated. A doctor that I was treated by described them himself, these drugs, as crude. Now, I don't see why there's a whole lot of people in society got to be subjected to drugs that are quite crude. I
don't agree with that. I think that medication, it does something for you, so everybody should take it just to get that bit of improvement.
All I see the pills doing is calming people down so that the barriers to setting up contact have broken down. How well does that work for you?
Oh, medication's good for me. Every time I try and lower it to get to a maintenance dose, I have to go straight back on it again. I'm an episodic one.
When I was in a very high dose, I had some side effects which I felt there were side effects at the time of being very tired and things like that, and kind of being very stiff in my movements. But these days, if I still have any side effects, I don't really notice them. But the thing with me was that the important thing for me in the beginning, when I did decide I had to get well, which was really, I think, largely a decision I had to make for myself that no one could enforce upon me, and it took a few years before I reached that decision. What happened was I had to be on the medication to just stop the basic symptoms that were going on in my head, and then the work begins of getting my life back in order, of sorting out a lot of emotional problems and a lot of problems that had developed over the time when I'd been very sick. And that really, I think, is a lifelong exercise.
I'll take my zinc later, okay? I won't take it now.
Okay. One, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Thank you. Yours is more colourful than mine.
I keep the medicine box locked to avoid anyone abusing them. Sue, for example, takes 11 anatensol tranquilizers and 7 tryptanol antidepressants. I take between 1 and 2 Serenase and zinc and mineral supplements. She has had many more episodes than I've had, and to control them, the doctors found that she needs very high dose, whereas mine are controlled by quite a low dose. I remember when I was 3 years old standing on the overhead bridge at Maitland Station seeing my father go off to hospital for the last time, and I was actually crying, and I didn't see him again until I was 21, and when I was engaged, and again just before we went to England, and I felt extremely sad that I hadn't seen more of him. My mother was never told that he had schizophrenia. She was always told it was amnesia. And it wasn't until after he died that we knew that he had schizophrenia.
With those kind of feelings and memories, how did you feel when you found out that you had schizophrenia?
I was filled with remorse and anguish that such a thing could have happened to both him and me and other people in the family too. We were very unlucky to have 2 children with it. By rights, we should have only had 1 at the very most.
We had 3 people who have this illness in the family, and they all react very differently. They all cope with it differently, and they're very much individuals in their own right.
Has it changed Jay as a person?
Yes, I'd say it's definitely changed him from being a very outgoing person who really wasn't afraid to front up to anyone, and now I think he feels he has to guard what he says in front of people, especially strangers. And yeah, I'd say it's definitely changed his outlook on life. He's probably terribly ambitious for himself to do some real work, as he would call it, and to feel fulfilled in that way. And I think that a lot of those opportunities probably have escaped him. I feel he's achieved a great deal, and so do other people, but I think he thinks that he had a lot more potential.
The worst thing for me has been the fact that you're a mental cripple. You can't use logical processes the way other people do, and of course to a mathematical physicist that's essential. And when I'm psychotic, I just cannot work at all.
With Stephen, he seemed to us to be absolutely terrified in his illness. He felt so terrified that he had to protect himself. He'd have knives that he'd be sort of carrying on him to defend himself. He never actually used them, but it was always that feeling, well, maybe he might. And it was scary.
He thought that as protection he could actually make himself invisible. He'd stand stock still for quite a long time thinking that no one could see him.
He still doesn't admit to having the illness. And he certainly distrusted us, so he didn't look for us for guidance in getting help. He really thought that I was capable of doing pretty horrific things to him. He was frightened of food. Even though he got his own milk from the milkman, he really always thought I'd tampered with it in some way. And he thought I was a devil at different times. And so in a way, I think it's amazing that he didn't let out and really do something to protect himself against us. Sue is erratic, and things can change very quickly with her. She's still at the very early stages of coping with her illness, and her behavioural changes are quite dramatic. And she was just very different to what she is now, in that she had a lot of energy and she enjoyed life to the full.
Well, if I didn't have Dad with it, it'd be very difficult for me. See, having Dad, it's made it very easy for me to get moulded into withstanding whatever is happening.
How do you think it's affected your mother?
Oh, look, it must put her under so much stress. It's unbelievable. I feel very sorry for Mum at times when I realise she's got 3 schizophrenics in her family. And not to say that we do terrible things or anything, but, it's just that a lot of the time we're very demanding about things. We need her support and everything like that. Too much of her support, really. And Dad's.
So has it changed your relationship with her, do you think?
Dramatically, yeah. It's got worse, actually, than what it used to be. We used to be very good friends.
Do you know why?
I think she's a bit angry too, She's a bit angry at why this has happened to her as well. Same for the way I feel about why has this happened to me. Same with Dad.
Sue's perceptions of me are not so good when she's in a psychosis.
What's that mean?
Well, I think she feels that when I'm talking to her that it's critical. I'm threatening her in some way. I think probably even physically, I look different to her. And I'm inclined to stay away. The last 2 times I've stayed away quite a bit from the hospital. And it's been much better.
Do you feel you live on a knife edge?
Not so much now. I've got much more accustomed to it. But at different times when I feel when their life is threatened, that's when I get absolutely terrified.
Susan, since we started making this film, you've overdosed twice. Why do you do it?
Oh, just being fed up with the illness. Can't live with it any longer.
What's the worst part of it?
The continual thinking bit where you just can't stop thinking. Your mind's going full ball and it says all these horrible things and you keep hearing it over and over again. I just can't put up with having this happening all the time. I don't get peace ever, never, unless I'm asleep.
Families live with the agony of not knowing what will happen next. Suicide is a real risk.
Tom's illness beset him for the last 20 years, and I suppose there are 2 points. The first one, we always had difficulty getting help. We felt so much in need and so unable to get help. He was a fellow who never cheated or lied, and you had to get policemen to pick him up, put him in a wire cage behind a police van and take him to hospital, and that happened about 20 times. So that was one aspect of getting help. It was always a cruel, cruel thing for him, our son, to go through, and for us. And the police, in our experience, were quite outstanding in their sensitivity. The other thing was getting a diagnosis. He was ill for 17 years before we were ever told that he was schizophrenic.
I feel a little bitter that he wasn't kept in hospital long enough to get the right medication and to bring him to a level he could live with. Every time he went in, the medication was heavily put into him. And despite the fact that we wrote letters asking for something else to be given, it was always the one medication that we knew upset him terribly. And so he had that again. And I saw him a few days before too, and I felt that if he could get out, he would take his life because of the way he felt.
Quite recently, in the last 6 months of his life, I've seen him nearly every day or spoken to him on the phone. And over again, the same old problem. Dad, I can't take it. I might as well be dead. I can't hack this was a famous thing, but almost his last words to me 2 days before he died. The last words were, I'll fight on, Dad. I don't want to do anything to hurt you and Mum. But it wasn't to be.
Because of the stigma, schizophrenia has been ignored at a vast human and economic cost. Schizophrenia fills more hospital beds than any illness, and it costs us billions of dollars a year. Yet research is grossly underfunded, and many families are left to struggle largely on their own. Dr. Margaret Leggett has pioneered the establishment of schizophrenia fellowships around Australia.
I'd carried out a piece of research looking at what happened in families when a son or daughter was diagnosed as suffering from schizophrenia. And I have to say that I found that research really a very shattering experience, because I could not believe that there were so many families out there coping with what I think is probably the most difficult illness that I can think of. And they were coping with the most extraordinary circumstances that were the manifestations of the illness itself. Sons and daughters who were developing very bizarre symptoms, whose behaviour was becoming very disorganised, very frightening in many instances. The illness itself was bad enough, but then what I was finding was that these families were not getting the sort of help or support that they needed. And so many of them were coping with ignorance from professional people who you would think perhaps would know what schizophrenia was all about. They were coping with terrible blame from perhaps other members of the family or from neighbours, from the community generally. And so many of them were becoming quite crushed and defeated and powerless.
I don't really know how things are going to be sometimes in the next 10 minutes. Things come out of the blue, just without any warning whatsoever. And you really have to use your gut feeling as to how you're going to cope with that. It's the precariousness of not knowing what it's going to be like. For instance, when I go home, how I'm going to find him when I get home. Or even if I'm in the house, even in the middle of the night, he can come to me and say, "Mum, I feel awful," particularly when he's been given the wrong medication or he's forgotten his pills, and we have to leap into the car and get straight over to the nearest hospital for help.
When I've took him from hospital in the system, "You're not allowed any alcohol," he's physically punched me. He's physically gone at me. Now his latest episode is that he's going to get a gun and he's going to shoot me. So.
Are you frightened?
Yes. I did become frightened, and that's why I had him re-hospitalised, because when he's in his psychotic state, he is not aware of what he's doing.
Those added tensions are just, unreal,
Absolutely.
You just can't understand. My elder daughter, and she was the same, she was frightened. Are we going to lose Andrew? And particularly when the professionals wouldn't listen, when we'd say, "Look, he is terribly depressed." And all you get put forward to, "Now look, Mrs. Hems, the statistics are 10 to 15% of schizophrenics commit suicide." Okay, we live with that on a day-to-day basis. But if you see a statistic coming, you don't stand back and say, "Well, come on in, statistic." You're talking about a person, a human being, not a statistic. And he's our son, and he's very much loved. He's an ordinary, everyday boy with an illness. And that's the bottom line. We're talking about schizophrenia. If it's bad for us, what's it like for them?
Well, obviously they go through an incredible amount of suffering, and I think the community or people who haven't experienced this with anybody don't understand. They don't understand the sheer drama that goes on in the patient's mind. And I think once we learn what goes on in their own mind, then we perhaps begin to understand how to handle them. And I think this is where the professions haven't given relatives and friends their time to explain to us what to expect and how to handle, as Anne said, when a certain symptom comes up.
It seems to me that what comes across both from you and from my own experience is almost that because people don't listen, you have to wait until there is a disaster, until there is a tragedy. Because I remember with Jonathan saying 3 times when he overdosed and asking for help and asking to get him into hospital and being told that he has to be a danger to himself or others. And I mean, how much more do you have to be a danger to yourself? And ultimately, as you know, he died. Now that is the ultimate tragedy there, and it's because people do not listen. Margaret, why does that happen?
Well, I think in the 60s and 70s, there was a lot of research that was being done that was laying the blame for the development of schizophrenia at the feet of the relatives, so that relatives have not been given any credibility at all. They've been seen to behave in such a way that they produce the symptoms of schizophrenia in a son or daughter. They've also been accused of, when the illness actually develops, of not handling it well, of being far too subjective. I think the other problem has been too that during those same periods, schizophrenia was not seen as an illness. It was seen as a particular way of behaving. It was seen as a way of young people avoiding a very traumatic environmental situation. So that it, I think, won't change very much until we have everybody really accepting that schizophrenia is an illness. And it is very much a treatable illness. But we have to get professional people understanding the symptoms very much better, understanding the way that people with schizophrenia learn to cope with those symptoms. And I'm sure until that happens, I think parents are still going to be blamed, which I think is probably one of the most subtle forms of cruelty I can think of.
People have to learn that schizophrenia is an illness, that our sons, our daughters, our wives, our husbands are human beings. They're ordinary people with an illness. They're no better, no worse than anybody else. They have feelings. Schizophrenia can be blunted, their feelings, but they still have feelings. They hurt. And we want everybody to understand that these people are human, that they're our loved ones, and we don't want to lose any more of them. We have to educate people.
Not just statistics.
And listen to us. Please listen to us.
It must be awful being ill again, Simon.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Because of the physical movements? Or the whole thing?
There's the physical movements, the aches, trying to figure out what's the drug and what's the the memories that come back, because some of the drugs help your memories come back. Others actually suppress your whole brain, knock out everything. So by the time you figured out what the difference is between your senses and memories that you're acting out on those drugs, it's really hard. Better just stop.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
How are
Yes. Hi.
You look so well, but she's that bad.
Yeah. Oh, I've actually been psychotic for 4 weeks.
Really?
Yeah, I went into another psychosis and came over.
Good to see you again.
This is your chance to meet Ann Devison. Welcome to the show.
I have met Anne before. Hello, Anne. How are you? Oh,
Well, what
right,
do you think?
great.
I've got to straighten the picture. Yeah, good. Let's get overwhelmed. It's all in the background, isn't it, then? Camera, this is my dad.
I think that you can recognise some schizophrenics because there's sort of like the stereotyped image of the bum on the streets, and all that sort of business. But no, I find that that's only a very small amount of schizophrenics. Most just like normal people, you wouldn't even know that they are if you walk past them or you talk to them or anything.
Yeah. I'm just saying, I'm so happy. I'm so glad to be sane. Sanity is wonderful, Andy. I should recommend it to everybody. I mean, I'm dealing with such pressure, and I'm sane. I have such a relief to be alive again,
I can get two thoughts at once. I can think two things at the same
two
time.
perceptions at once?
No, two running commentaries at once. One's in my mind and one's sort of talking in my mind. It's at different levels, like one's sort of in between subconscious level and unconscious level, and the other one's the consciousness.
Yeah.
So I sort of have two of them going, like my doctor said, oh, that'd be awful, having that.
They're deprived.
In a moment, we'll have details of the Schizophrenia Fellowship in your state. The Spinning Out video and Anne Devison's book, Tell Me I'm Still Here, are available from ABC shops.
For further information or to make a donation, please call the Schizophrenia Fellowship of South Queensland on 07358 4424. That's 07358 4424.